Located on the grounds of the Nevada Northern Railway National Historic Landmark, the East Ely Depot was built in 1905. It stands over the vast railroad yards that moved people, goods, and most especially the copper ores that electrified America during the Great American Century. The depot is operated by the Division of Museums and History. Visitors experience what it was like, how it all worked, and what it took to keep a railroad operating day and night 365 days a year. Stepping into the Depot Museum, you travel back in time as you walk through the general offices of the railroad, including train dispatchers, crew chiefs, finance, medical, management, and the company president. Check out what was considered state-of-the-art equipment at the time, as well as a vast archive of railroad documents and records.
The Lost City Museum was built in 1935 by the Civilian Conservation Corps. Now the reason why it exists is because in the 1920s, two local brothers did discover Native American ruins in the region, got the governor involved, and then thus starting the Lost City. The museum was intentionally built to protect and house the artifacts that were found in this region. The museum houses a wide variety of items that would have been from the ancestral Puebloans. It includes lots of pottery, different types of pottery, so bowls, jars, pots, that sort of thing. Also lots of items they would have been using for hunting purposes, so lots of projectiles. Anything they would have used for food preparation, so you have a lot of stones that would have been used for those types of purposes, for grinding corn. They actually were really efficient at growing corn and cotton and other like beans. That's the kind of stuff they used to farm in this region. We also do have some modern artifacts. Along with the prehistory items, we have more modern day. So we have things that belong to the Europeans that settled in the region in the late 1800s, mostly Mormons that came from Arizona. So Nevadans should come to the Lost City Museum because it is the perfect little gem in the southern part of the state. We do kind of cover how this region looked anywhere from the Ice Age into the modern day. We try and just kind of give a nice little rounded package of the lives of the natives that would have lived in this region back 1,000+ years ago. This museum is special because it's incredibly unique. We're also one of the oldest museums in the state of Nevada, being established in 1935, at least in regards to the building itself. The building was built then and we've been in it ever since. It's just special because it's like a little gem. It's so tiny in the middle of nowhere and you're like, nothing cool can be out here, but look at this place. It's beautiful.
Nevada State Railroad Museum in Boulder City was created to talk about the history and culture of railroading with an emphasis on southern Nevada and the greater Mojave region. We are located on the original Boulder City branch line, which was constructed by the Los Angeles and Salt Lake, which was a subsidiary of Union Pacific Railroad, to facilitate the construction of Boulder City by the federal government and bring material and goods into Boulder City for staging for the construction of Hoover Dam. The railroad we operate on is still that original route that was built in the Depression for the construction of Hoover Dam, for the construction of Boulder City. And we do have pieces in our collection that survive from the construction of the dam. So we're very fortunate to have some of those surviving pieces. Here at Boulder City, we're the continuity. We kind of start at the very end of the 19th century and pick up the story of how that mining boom experience in Nevada spread to the southern part of the state and the boom and bust cycles you see in the southern regions here in Nevada, and then continue that story through World War II, the Cold War era, and into the present day. Railroads are still a vital resource here in the greater Las Vegas region. They're responsible for the movement of just about all the goods you will use in your daily lives, whether it's the automobile you're driving on the road, the wood and materials that are coming in for construction projects. All that material traveled at rail at some point because it's still the most efficient means to move a large quantity of goods in a short period of time. Railroads continue to be the lifeblood of Nevada and the United States, and we tell that story here in Boulder City. So we offer a wide range of experiences to people to bring the history and culture culture of Nevada alive. And one of the greatest things that we do here at the museum is we pride ourselves on being a family educational center. And with that, here in Vegas, there's a lot of things to do. But this museum and the services we offer to the public are one of the very few affordable things that families have to do in the region. And so we recognize our role as being a good community partner, and we work to develop programming for children, adults, education of all ages.
Las Vegas is one of the unique cities in this country, not because of people coming here for entertainment and pleasure and conferences, but there is a solid community that supports our tourism industry. And people are brought in from all over the world and become settled here. And so we have, I believe in our school district, there's something like 78 distinct first languages spoken. And so as the State Museum, we want to make sure that we are everybody's museum, and that we try to reflect the diverse community that we have here. And we certainly see it in our visitors. When they first walk in, they'll be welcomed by a bristlecone pine, which is one of the oldest species on Earth and is found in our upper elevations here. As you go into the gallery space, we try to do it somewhat chronologically, so you're looking at the desert environment from dusk to dawn, and you get to see mammals and bird life. But we also talk about the geologic history, so that when Las Vegas in southern Nevada was formerly sea, you have different kind of sea creature fossils, you have different kinds of shells, mollusks, etc. There's a whole system of museums in the state of Nevada, but it being in the largest populated area, this museum has probably the largest collection of plants, animals, fossils, costumes from our Las Vegas history of any of our sister museums. I think people come here because it is a chance for people to know a little bit about our history, because we do get a lot of people from out of town, but we also get people that have just moved here. And so I like to say that there is something for everybody. So if you're an 8-year-old, you have things that are very kid-oriented because you've got some things that you can touch and things that are approachable. But if you're an adult or a grandparent, you also have things that are interesting to you. If you're particularly focused on the natural world, about half of our public area is on plants, animals, and fossil history of Nevada. If you're more interested in mining and railroads and Hoover Dam, and then again into the Las Vegas show business and entertainment field, you will get to see things that are both historic and also more current.
We are the foundation of cultural heritage for the state of Nevada. We were founded in 1904 by Gene Weir, who came to the University of Nevada to become a history professor. We have some really cool things here that a lot of people are surprised about, because we were the only museum or cultural heritage institution in the state for a pretty long time. So when people come in, I like to tell them they'll see Nevada history in a snapshot and then point them to some things that we have in our collection that they would be surprised to see. One of the things is a Japanese friendship doll, Miss Wakayama. And what's really great is that not only does she represent history, so it's not just a doll. You're not just looking at something beautiful and amazing with master craftsmanship on display. There's a real backstory. There's a history to it. Why did this occur? Who did it? Why do we have it? And how we can share that history. So actually, even today, we have people from around the world coming and visiting our friendship doll, Miss Wakayama. One of my favorite objects happens to be right behind us, and it is a miner's bathtub from Candelaria, which was a mining camp. And if you can imagine how much water would be utilized, these mining camps, historically didn't have a lot of access to water. It's a precious commodity. And so the amount of water that you would utilize in this miner's bathtub is minuscule. One of the things that people love to come and see at the Nevada Historical Society is our collection of our Datso-Lali baskets. Datso-Lali is considered one of the most influential artists of the 20th century. And her basketry basically changed form of a utilitarian object to an art form at this time, pretty much single-handedly by her and her amazing artistry. So one of our collections that people are actually a little surprised to hear about is our American Gaming Archives. And we started collecting this history of gambling manufacture in the United States starting in 2004. Because basically a lot of people hear about the gambling, the casinos and things, but really the history of manufacturing for gaming materials goes back to 1865. So we actually have the largest collection of the gambling history in the United States. We have the history behind the objects that tell a more complete history, and we keep that history in our archives as well. So we have a research library where people can come in and do research regarding their own history, things that they're looking at, but also that preserves our history through archives and photographs. So our research library is really well utilized. We have people coming in every day to research various different aspects of the history of Nevada as well as the West, because our archives expand into those areas as well.
Well, it sure is good to be back home.
So at our museum here at the State Museum, we're hosted in the historic U.S. Mint building. So we have the story of the U.S. Mint and all the coins that were pressed here over time and all the monetary stuff that was done here. It's a historic structure in of itself, so it's kind of, we live in an artifact. And we also have the biggest anthropological collection from the entire state of Nevada, so telling the indigenous story of our state, as well as our natural history galleries, which also go through essentially 900 million years of Earth time and kind of put us into that perspective as well. Our Under One Sky exhibit was an exhibit that was done in partnership between the museum and the 28 tribes of the state of Nevada. So it tells the archaeological story, so the scientific story of what was found and its significance to the history of peoples in the Great Basin. And alongside that, it also tells the indigenous story, so the perspective of the people that actually live here to this day and what their perspective is on what was found and what these artifacts mean. We cater to all audiences. We're telling the story of Nevada, so we wanted to be accessible to all Nevadans and to people visiting from afar. Kids will probably like we have the largest Columbian mammoth on display in the world, so that's always a big hit with the kids. We have a replica of an underground mine, which is always, the kids go down there, they go through the mine, and it's always a huge hit as well. Adults will probably be more interested in maybe some of our interactive exhibits, talking about the history of the Mint, the history of Carson City. I first visited this museum on an elementary school field trip when I was a student in Churchill County. And I remember going through the underground mine as a kid. It hasn't changed a whole lot, it's still impactful, the kids love it. This place is important to Nevada because this is where our story is kept. And it's our responsibility to make sure this story endures for generations to come. And it's our responsibility to tell the stories of the various perspectives of Nevadans through time as well.
When you visit the Nevada State Railroad Museum, you're going to be introduced to the finest collection of 19th century railroading equipment anywhere on the planet. We mostly interpret the collection of the Virginia and Truckee, but we have many examples from the railroads in the surrounding areas. Railroads played the pivotal part in settling Nevada. The museum connects immediately with children and adults. When kids come in, we connect with them as well. So we'll get them on a handcar, we'll get them into Whistling Billy. We've got activities for them to engage in. I love our 19th century locomotives. The V&T saved so many of them. We have this amazing collection of stuff that any other railroad museum would love to have because most railroads scrapped it out. We had two major wars and they needed iron. It stayed put safely in Nevada until it went to Hollywood, starred in the movies, and then Nevada was able to get its heritage. Nevada State Railroad Museum has a deep collection. Most railroad museums will get a locomotive and a caboose, and that starts your museum. The Nevada State Railroad Museum goes deeper to the freight, to the maintenance, to the entire life of the railroad, because railroads, oddly, you think it's about moving people, and it was, but mostly it was about moving goods to market and helping people change their life for the better. This museum in particular, you will see examples of things you never even considered. It's not just coaches and locomotives and cabooses. It's the whole thing that made a railroad operate. And this museum is unique in that you can touch on it all.